by the blood of our people are your lands kept safe.
I see in your eyes the same fear that will take the heart of me.
So do all who live to see such times.
By all that you hold dear, this good earth.
There's some good in this world, and it's worth fighting.
All right, welcome back, everyone. It is finally here. The Rings of Power episode 1 and 2 dropped today. We just finished watching them and then hopped on the mic to talk about it. So I guess, yeah, what are you thinking? What were your first thoughts?
Well, I'm just all day. I'm like, wow, the day is here. We kind of. I don't remember when we started doing these videos. It's been almost a year, I think, just building up.
Yeah, just over actually. So we started in August because we didn't actually know the release date at the time. It was just we started to get some serious buzz around it, so we decided to start talking about it.
So it's like, wow, time passes and we're here.
And I want to say back then, we were right. We basically called exactly how this is going to play out. We were going to get a bunch of still images. We were going to get some trailers, and everyone was going to go crazy. And most of that stuff was in the first 2 episodes. Like
almost everything the trailer covers.
Almost everything. There's a few scenes that are not in the first 2 episodes, but most of the stuff is right there in the trailer. And a lot of it was a lot less important. But because it was a trailer, that's all we had. People were like hyper focused on very specific scenes that ended up just kind of being just a fun, nonchalant scene. So I think we did a good job at staying relatively level-headed when it came to some of these trailers and what we were seeing, because all sorts of takes about how this thing couldn't have happened or this. I mean, heck, like a lot of the stuff even was in almost like a prologue.
Yep.
Like basically a lot of the stuff that we see in terms of like Galadriel fighting is in a semi-prologue. So, I think we did a good job there. I think we didn't get too overblown with all this stuff, especially when, back in the day we were talking about potentially Peter Jackson being on board, Howard Shore coming back, and then we started getting some stills, and then those stills were very different looking than what we were used to, and it kind of caught us off guard at the time. But I think we said, let's just see how this plays out in the show, and I was pleasantly surprised. I don't know where my expectations were going in. It was hard for me to kind of pinpoint my feelings, but I came away at the end very pleasantly surprised and for the most part happy.
Me too. I'd agree. And I've been pumped all day waiting for it, and
I was pumped, but were you pumped in I can't believe we get to go back to Middle Earth, or were you pumped in a we've been doing this for a year, finally we actually get to talk about this show?
Both. I think both.
Yeah.
But anyway, I took notes. Did you take notes?
I did. I have them here somewhere.
Okay.
I was taking it, but I wanted a movie atmosphere, so pitch black and sitting on my couch. So I was like, I don't know if I typed them out really well.
I hand wrote mine, on a notepad. I sat with a notepad.
I had a super dim tablet beside me that I was basically typing with one hand. So a lot of this is like really weird.
But anyway, my first thing was, okay, so I sat down at like a little before 9, and then when I pressed play, instead of the show playing, it just played the trailer.
Yeah, me too.
So I wonder if anyone else did that.
Because the funny thing is, if you go to episodes, and I don't know if you did this, but if you go to episodes, all of the trailers are labeled episode 0, so you gotta cycle through like 5 episodes.
It took me 2 minutes. So I started about 1 minute and 10 seconds late. So I was watching it, being like, "Damn, everyone else is like a minute ahead of me right now."
That's better than me, because I basically thought I had the similar problem. I thought my Prime account or something was broken, so I legit just turned my TV off and back on to see if it would have refreshed because my Prime is built into my smart TV.
Okay.
So I was thinking, oh, my TV's kind of screwy with the clock. So I was like, shut it off, turn it on. So I was like 5-ish minutes late. But I didn't care too much. I was like, you know what? People are going to see it 5 minutes ahead of me. But you know, once at the end of it, we're all going to be at the same pace. And hopefully next week I can catch back up.
Anyway, just going through my things, we saw Elf Kids. I've never seen Elf Kids before.
True. We did.
That was fun. That was fun.
It was.
And we learned that from the still, like the first still they released, the guy walking up, that is Galadriel's brother.
Mm-hmm.
I have his name written,
I was-
Finrod.
I was actually surprised. Yeah, I was actually surprised at how, so that was the first image ever released, and that was in, I guess, the second scene technically, because the first scene is the boat race, or I guess just floating of the boat. But yeah, I was surprised at how early we saw that. I was like, oh wow, so, you know, they didn't show us something way in the future of the show. This is like legit first scene or second scene. Here's your still. It is a beautiful still. I know why they picked it. I mean, it looks fantastic.
I was gonna comment that Morphid, if I'm saying her name right, she has a nice voice. I like her narrating.
Yep.
Okay, so then we end up, just following my notes, we end up at the ice pick scene with the knife.
Yep.
And then there's the naysayer elf I wrote down named Thondir, and he wants to go home. And what Galadriel is doing is they're hunting Sauron.
Yeah.
And okay, now we have a troll. There's a troll fight. We have that also in the
Well,
trailer.
actually, just before you get there, I wanted to quickly jump in and say we had the scene that everyone kind of was making fun of, where Galadriel's like, "No, we keep going," and it's kind of a fake out because
they're there already.
So yeah, not only are they there, but also, so she's saying that not knowing how severe, like, so she doesn't actually know what's happened. It seems like, so she's in the front of this kind of line of people or elves, sorry, and she doesn't realize that someone's fallen, so she just thinks someone's like, oh, we gotta slow down and rest. She's like, no, we keep going. And then when someone's like, no, look, and then she sees her fallen comrade, then she's like,
goes
oh,
and
okay.
helps.
So the trailer does not do that scene justice properly. It makes her come across as really like cold, and what's really going on is she's just driven. It's not supposed to be her coming across as mean. Like, that's not.
No,
yeah.
you keep moving. This reminds me of like my parents when you're a little kid and your feet hurt, and you're like, God knows where what. No,
Well,
we keep moving.
And also, just before we get to the troll, there's the moment where we learn that the darkness or the evil in this place is making the fire cold. Like, it's an interesting magic at work, and we're gonna see that later on, potentially. So that's just an interesting thing to pick up on there. I didn't realize that like was a thing. I wasn't aware of that. So yeah, then we get to this troll, like you said.
That was awesome. And remember the Moria when it took like all 9 of them to fight that thing?
Yep.
Galadriel takes it on herself, like
Well,
entirely.
with
men are useless. Her
yeah.
men don't.
Well, but she does have the help of the kind of like launch pad, so she does have a little bit of assistance. But yeah, once she gets in the air, her movement is, and we kind of see Legolas pull something similar off, right? Once he sees Frodo go down, he kind of goes into like elf rage mode and runs up a chain on top of this thing. So, you know, yeah, I think it was actually much better seeing it in full, especially seeing the intro of the troll, because I was even gonna say this troll, if it just comes around the corner, they'll just blast it with arrows. But the troll was actually smart. Like, it's a smarter troll than I think we're used to, because all of a sudden it kind of creeps out, sees what they're doing, and like hurls this like giant like icicle at them, and it catches them off guard, which is a bit of a twist. They're not used to seeing trolls kind of outthink people like that, or outthink elves.
Then we have a bit of a mutiny. Everyone wants to go home.
Yeah, as soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, mutiny time. What are we gonna do? Poor Galadriel.
And it seems like she's just going to continue on her own, but she doesn't. She goes back with the rest of them. And now I think we cut to it was also in the trailer, those guys with the antlers.
Yep.
They were human hunters. Clearly
Mhm.
those were hunters. They hunted those elk. And I liked seeing the Harfoots, because even in the intro, they're kind of hiding, and so the hunters are walking by and they're just remaining hidden. And that's in the intro to the Hobbit book, isn't it? When he's telling us about what hobbits are, and he's saying they're still around today. You just don't see them; they stay hidden.
Yeah,
when they want
it's
to.
actually, I was in the same exact mindset of you. I was like, oh, this actually is a bit of a true representation of the words there, because they're hiding basically in the exact field that those hunters are walking by. And the hunters kind of know that they're there, but have like no way of detecting them unless you step on one accidentally, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah, and it goes into why Gandalf chose a hobbit to be his burglar for a quest for the Arkenstone.
That's right.
Yeah, I like that.
Now in terms of having hobbits, so that was actually one of the big concerns a lot of people are having, and it was one that I also was potentially having as the show was creeping closer and closer. And I didn't hate it. I actually thought that their little setup and their the characters that we meet there, they are slightly different enough from the hobbits that we know, just in terms of their lifestyle, that it doesn't make you feel like they're out of place by just slapping the Shire down in the middle of this story. You know what I mean? This is a different group almost, and that's sort of the point. So to me, I actually thought that the way that they've depicted these particular hobbits or Harfoots are, it works for what they're trying to tell.
Mm-hmm. And I have a note saying Nori is very Tookish.
Yeah.
She's Tookish. And they go into that garden with the berries. I'm like, oh, they're bringing out like the carefree lifestyle of the Shire a little bit there. I like that.
Because we see that apparently that is an old farm that it's been destroyed and it's never been rebuilt. But you can see them kind of enjoying that idea already, like the fact that you get these berries here. You don't have to just forage for snails and other kind of things. You can have this huge collection of berries. Unfortunately, it's guarded by some scary things, so you can't spend too much time there.
Yeah, that's the first time we've seen a warg in the wild, right? We haven't. We've always seen the domesticated ones. My next note just says the visuals are great, so I think that was kind of showing the elven cities. Yep. And I also said I'm a fan of the accents. I like Elfdelf. I like when Galadriel says Elrond or however she said it.
I agree. I think that's it. There's a little bit of it there in Jackson's films, but here they made it clear. Basically, you could close your eyes, listen, and know which group is speaking. And I think that is a neat way to differentiate them, especially because, Harfoots have barely been in contact with anyone, so they really shouldn't have picked up any dialects that aren't their own. And then obviously elves at this point in time are still trying to, they still believe themselves to be like the saviors of Middle-earth, it seems. Like they're still sort of almost like the caretakers. Like they've got these watchtowers with guards just kind of monitoring for evil. So they kind of view themselves as that. And so having them have a different dialect, I like it too. And I actually think it worked really well. I think, like you said, the visuals are great. And this is something we talked about a lot already in other videos, but the practical effects, they really come through here. And I think they need praise for that. No matter if you like the story or not, the fact that they're trying to use those practical effects as much as possible. There was a few moments that I thought they could have added more in, like the warg, for example. We don't actually see it in its full yet, so that really didn't need to be CGI to me. But there's a lot of practical there that I really like. Like you can see that the actors actually have something to touch and work with right in front of them.
And then we learn Hobo Baggins is Nori's father, the guy that we've been dubbing Hobo Baggins.
Also, I think like these hobbits, the look of them is, I think it's really well done. Like they look dirty. Like they get blood on them. Like, you know what I mean? Like it looks like they're really living there. That was one issue.
They live in actual holes in the
They
ground.
actually live. Yeah, they actually live like touching dirt all the time. And
Mhm.
so I think that's something that I was nervous about, and this completely put me at ease.
Then we have Elrond's the speechwriter for the king.
Yeah,
Because
that
we see
was-
that he's sitting in the garden writing the speech, trying to figure out a good word for a dead thing, and then he
Yeah.
comes up with carcass later.
Well, and it's kind of a callback to the intro where they're like, we didn't have any words for death, and you know what I mean? So it's like, okay, so he's still learning words for death.
That's true.
Yeah.
And what the other thing was interesting is that the king is the one who grants permission to go to Valinor, and it's like a reward for doing a good service.
Yeah. Now, this is something I guess we can talk about in another video at some point or something, but the lore, it's not super deep on lore, which I think is good from just for people who are really casual, just trying to check the show out. But even for someone like me who's read some Tolkien works, but not all, it helps so that it's not just over explaining every aspect of elf life, you know what I mean? So just kind of having like, yeah, the king like maybe there's some more to it, but yeah, it sounds like, yeah, the king kind of grants this as a gift and off you go. I like that. I think it's a smart choice. There may be some people who want a lot more talk of the lore in this, and that's understandable, but I think this is really helpful for people to be able to see this and grasp certain aspects right away.
And then we end up with back to the human town, and we have a "you people" line.
Yeah.
The human says "you people" to the elf.
What do you mean, you people?
Exactly. So I wrote that down. And
No, so actually, real quick, while we're there with the you people, well, we're about to get to the elf-human relationship.
yes.
Yeah, I was wondering. I didn't think it was sold the best. Because it seems like they haven't really spoken that much. Even like it seems a bit.
Yeah, it's always been like just kind of quiet. So
Yeah.
it sounds like
Like they've kind of like noticed each other, but then they're gonna go out on a limb to do some potentially like, I guess unorthodox is the word I would use. Like in terms of this is not a normal courting ritual, and this is not something that these two have ever done, and it kind of seems a little bit fast. I'm gonna see where this goes, but it just kind of came like I didn't realize that they really didn't know much about each other.
I mean, I think they do, but it was always just like above the surface. They never he never made a move or whatever.
But like
You know
he
what I
didn't
mean?
even know where she was originally from, because we find out. You know what I mean?
true.
Like he didn't even know that much detail about her. I guess he knew that her husband either ran off or was killed. It's not clear which yet.
Yeah.
But other than that, he kind of didn't really know a ton. It seems. She actually seemed to know more about him.
And I commented that Arondir, that's the elf, the black sylvan elf, he plays very stoically. I like that.
I like it
It's
too.
like a good callback to like kind of the Legolas a bit.
And we see that with both the king and to some extent Celebrimbor, because he's kind of got that like, I mean, he still is sort of seeking out some great artwork, I'll call it, for himself to do, but he does have that kind of presence about him. But you're right, this guy plays it super like straight, and I love it. I like that style of elf, and you know all of those elves do actually, like all of his fellow elves that are kind of manning that guard tower. They all sort of have that almost humans are evil by like their very nature. You know what I mean? Like you kind of get that talk
Yeah.
there, which I do like that. I want some of these elves to kind of have that kind of gruffness to them.
And I made a note of Alpharin seeds. That was like the healing seeds that she had that you crush gently.
Yeah.
And then we had some comic relief when Arondir tells his elf companion that you smell like rotten leaves.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what that was about. I didn't really understand.
Well, it was just funny. He starts smelling himself, and it's just kind of funny. I think
Is it because like they're wearing leaves? Was that?
I think it's just comic relief. He smell like rotten leaves. And the men of Tirahad. That's the human town we're at right now. They stood with Morgoth back when Morgoth was up there.
Right.
So, and that's why the elves are watching over them, because they think that they still stand with Morgoth in a way.
Right. They think that there's still some evil out there, whether or not it's Sauron or something else. Like, they're not really sure. They know that there's potentially some evil out there, and yes, this area happened to be big supporters of Morgoth. So, I do also appreciate that, because I don't want just everyone. I didn't want everyone to just be buddy, and that was sort of my worry, because some of the charm for me in the Peter Jackson trilogy is how these characters who start off a little bit antagonistic. In the case of Legolas and Gimli, it's outright hostility at times, and then it grows into a beautiful friendship, or in the case of Boromir and Aragorn, mutual respect. And I want that to happen, but you don't have that without that initial conflict. So I like the fact that you've got, humans and elves that are not seeing eye to eye in that particular area. I think it helps just foster a really nice potential relationship, and hopefully we'll see that play out.
And then we have the guy show up with his cow, asking him. And when Arondir goes to milk it, that black sludge comes out.
Yeah, and we had a hint of that too, right? Because there was some talk of like poisoned grass or poisoned land or something like that, and it was people were like, "Oh, don't worry, this guy just is a bad farmer or something. Like he screwed up his crops and got weeds or something like that." Like these guys were not concerned. And then this cow shows up, and then, I mean, everyone, including the elf, we all know something bad's happening.
So they go east to Hodern, where the cow may have gone. But while they're on their way, then Theo, Bronwyn's son, is going through the floorboards. Is that the cow farmer's barn, or whose barn was that?
Yeah, see, that's what I didn't really understand. And that was a part where I was kind of like, okay, this is a strange kind of setup, because you're right, he's going through a barn. I'm not sure whose barn it is. They're clearly not supposed to be there, but underneath those floorboards is like a little bit of a treasure trove. But the really cool thing that they have their eye on is this hilt of a sword.
Yeah, is that, what do you call it? Would that be a Morgul blade or not
That's
quite?
what I was thinking, but I don't know if that's how they work, where the blood.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
But it's got the mark of Sauron on it. I don't think we saw that in any of the trailers. Was that a new reveal?
We saw. So people, I remember seeing some eagle-eyed YouTubers point out certain markings on Galadriel's brother in that shot there, because we saw that in the trailer.
And he had that mark. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can't remember if we saw it anywhere else though, in the trailer.
Well, you see it on the ice when they pour the water on it, and you see it on her body, or his body.
His body. So you see it on the ice, his body. You see it on that sword, and we know that that's the symbol that Galadriel is searching for, because everywhere she finds it, she's like, "Oh, we're on the right track." So.
And now we get to the kind of the stuff that's a little baffling. The king verily believes that Sauron is out there, but he's still pulling all the elves from their posts.
Yeah. And he says it's because if we send Galadriel out there, she might end up helping or causing the evil to happen.
Yeah, but that still doesn't mean you should be pulling the guys
Right,
from
just
their watch
just
posts.
don't let Galadriel go.
I mean, I kind of can see the argument for like not like waking up a sleeping dog or whatever.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we should like, okay, let's take down all our defenses. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think I think what they were kind of going for was that the evil is dormant, and only by disturbing it would it actually pose a threat. I think that's the idea, and that by Galadriel seeking it out, she would inadvertently wake it up, like you just said. Like, I think that's what they were going for, but I didn't quite get it at the time. I was like, wait, so you do think it's out there, but you're pulling everyone, not just Galadriel, because I know Galadriel's a bit of a loose cannon here, but you're pulling everyone, even just random guys on a watchtower or something. You're just like, nope, everyone back. And it's just like, it's a bit of an overreaction from Galadriel actually finding evidence of evil.
And then I made a comment because between the scenes, at least in that first episode, it didn't seem like they did in the second episode, but they were kind of showing the map, and then the camera would move to the location. I thought that was a nice effect.
I did too, and I really liked the transition because we would go from the map, and then we would zoom into the map, and it would become the land or the water or whatever was happening to us.
And then the comet comes, or the meteor comes, and Galadriel jumps out of the boat.
Yeah, that was also a weird decision. Like, I didn't realize she was actually going to get on the boat. And then when she was on the boat, I'm like, okay, she's going to be like, turn this ship around. And then she just dips. And I was like, wait a minute, she's going to swim all the way back? Is that her plan?
That was her plan. Apparently that was her plan. And then, I don't know if you caught that, but the leaf, when that meteor's coming in the king's hand, a leaf falls.
Yeah.
And you hear black speech.
Yeah.
There's black speech.
And he turns the leaf over, and you can see the leaf.
Which I will not utter here.
Yeah, no one's supposed to utter it there. So here's the thing. I don't know if that was for our sake as audience, or if that was in show. So that's one thing where I'm not sure. Like, was he hearing that? I don't think he was. You know what I mean? I think that was just for us to know, like, bad stuff is coming. Like, this is a bad omen. So yeah, I'm not really sure what exactly happened there, because again, like, the meteor fell seemingly very far away from that area, and still it had corrupted a leaf or something, it seems, because the leaf itself is like got like black like sludge on it.
And yeah, the episode ends with Meteor Man. Did they make it to... They made it to that village in this episode, or was that the second episode? Hodern.
Yeah, I think they no, I don't know if they made it yet.
Okay. Okay, so the next episode starts.
Oh yes, they did. So they make it to the episode and they see it burning. They make it to the edge of town and they see the town burning, and that's when it cuts away from them. But they see that the town has been burnt.